Well, I'm Lorraine Blackburn. I was born in Iowa on a farm, and I am now going on 90 years old. In April, I'll be 90. Then we moved back, sent to California, and we started moving all over the country. And we did go to Japan, and that was quite an experience because Denny went to Japan, and I was alone in California. We were stationed in California then, and so it was what, two months or so before I could go. I had the car. We had bought a new little Nash Rambler, and I drove. It was in December when I got my port call. So I had packed up things that I would need, and I took yards and yards of cloth for curtains and things like that, and went to, I drove from Denver in the wintertime up through Wyoming over to Seattle, Washington with our older son, David. And we didn't have, yeah, we had Michael. We had the two boys. And in the wintertime, and I had chains in the car, and I stopped in Wyoming one place at a filling station, and I said, do I need the chains? And he said, lady, if you've gotten this far, you don't need them anymore. So I drove on to Washington, and with myself, with the two boys, and we had a port call, and got on a big ship, and we had a private room because of the ages of our boys, and met a lot of the wives that were going over too, and that wasn't it. We were on that ship 17 days because we skirted typhoons all the way over, and my cabin happened to be opposite the stairway where the men were going over, and they had to stay underneath in the bottom, and they would just come up as far as they could to get fresh air, and I felt so sorry for them. But while I was on the ship, they had a choir, so I sang in the choir, and I had taken toys for the boys, and the ship would go like this and like this and like this, and I turned up a card table upside down, and so their toys they were lock blocks and things like that, so they could play without everything going on the floor. And I became acquainted with some of the other women that were single, didn't have families, and they would stay with my boys while I was in the choir. And we were there Christmas and New Year's on the ship. And the crew was wonderful, just wonderful. They had gifts for the boys, for the children, and a party for the kids while we were on board. But the ship did go like this, and I felt woozy, and I said, no, Lorraine, if you get sick, those boys are going to get sick. So I fought it, and I couldn't get sick. But a lot of the women were, and because the ship just rolled we skirted all the way around in typhoons. So that was an experience I'll never forget, going over on the ship. And then I thought we were going to have to live in Tokyo because the husband had to have a place for the wife to live, or you couldn't go over there. And anyway, when he met me at the port with the big bouquet of flowers, Now I'm very sentimental, so if I start to cry, why, that's all right. Anyway, it was a wonderful reunion, and he had a driver in a car that from the base, and told me that he had a house for us. Oh, that was heaven. A lot of the women would not go; they were afraid to go to Japan, but not me. Where he goes, I'd go, and it was a wonderful experience. 72 in 73 in June.
72.
72?
We were married in 1943.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. We got married because we really loved each other, and we'd get mad once at times. Anybody does at each other.
Well, life is a challenge, no matter how good you might be.
But we realize that we're so fortunate to have each other, and it's wonderful to have our children gone. It is. We just, the doctor keeps saying we should go live with our kids. Well, we don't want to live with our kids. We're happy right here, and we can run around the house nude if we want to. We don't, it's just a love that we have and we keep it going.
Okay, I can answer that a different way.
We just about never pass each other without a hug or a kiss or a pat. And we keep telling each other that how much they mean to us. So
and our kids do.
You got to keep it going. Well, be sure you know the person before you marry them. Know all about them as much as you can. And realize there's going to be hardships. Realize you're going to be disagreements. But think back why you married them, and you'll work through things. You'll work through it, and
you'll learn to appreciate all those good things.
You'll appreciate it more, and you'll learn to love each other more, and stick with it, and it's worth it. It's worth it.
And it gets better as it gets older.
That's true. It gets better as you get older.
It takes years to build that relationship, not just to.
But don't forget to let them know that you love them always, every day. Sometimes I know you're busy and working, but stop and give a hug and a kiss, and it helps to know their families. Now, what I liked about Dad was he talked about his mother in a good way. He talked, on our first date, I think he talked about his mother all the while we were walking across the viaduct. And that, if a man thinks that much of his mother, then he will think that much of you. And equal. If a girl talks about her dad, then you know that her family is pretty good.